Everyone, it's Dina from Tarot with Dina. Today I'm looking at the Suit of Swords. What I did was I put all of my decks out, and I went through the Suit of Swords and I pulled my favorites. Right here, this is the Universal Waite, but I'm going to go through the Ace through 10 of Swords and pull out my favorites from every deck that I own, which is like 40 decks. I call it like a small, big collection because it's a big collection because a lot of people have 0 decks or 1 deck, but it's a small collection because the people that I think have a big collection, have like 300 or more decks. Some people have more than 1,000 decks. So I don't know how you would choose your favorite cards if you had 1,000 decks, because honestly, how are you going to go through all those? I don't know. It took me a long time to go through 40 decks, but I'll get started showing you the Ace through 10 of Swords, my favorite cards from about a 40 deck collection. So here we have the Ace of Swords from the Soul Cat's Tarot. He has the little air symbol on his forehead and a sword on his collar. I really like the Soul Cat's Tarot, so I probably chose that one more than I don't know what. The thing is, the aces, sometimes they're not very exciting. Sometimes it's just a hand holding a thing, and I don't really love that. But like here we have an Ace of Swords from the Everyday Witch Tarot, and I do like this one. But when you have a person holding a thing, I mean, how is this different from a card that would be called a Page of Swords? But I do still prefer it to just a hand holding a sword. Here we have the Ace of Swords from the Tarot of the Divine. And you see Alexander the Great cutting through the Gordian knot. So I thought since that was a clever way to solve a problem, and since the swords are the element of air and it's usually associated with the intellect, then I thought that made a lot of sense for problem solving and using your sword to cut through. Here we have the Ace of Swords from the Druidcraft Tarot, and it's sort of like the Lady of the Lake. It's basically just a hand holding a thing, but since it seems to imply more of a story, that's one of the reasons that I chose it. And then this is the Ace of Swords from the Modern Love Tarot. And this stack of books that creates an archway looks just like a sculpture outside of my library. I don't know if this is common, like if other libraries have a statue just like this outside of them, because I doubt that the artist saw my library. But because the swords do represent intellect, and because that looks just like the entrance to my library, I really like this Ace of Swords. So if I were to look at these aces and choose which one is my favorite, I mean, honestly, I really like this one. If it wasn't for this one looking just like my library, I probably would say this one. However, I think my favorite Ace of Swords is the one that literally looks just like the entrance to my library. These are the Two of Swords. It seems like I chose several of them. On some of the cards, I was hard pressed to find several that I liked, and on others, I couldn't stop choosing which ones I wanted. Here we have the Two of Blades from the Everyday Enchantment Tarot. And the blades are 2 butter knives that are crossed. And this woman's not wanting to look at the bills in front of her. She's not wanting to listen to the fights behind her. I feel like this is a really vivid card, and I really like when I can read body language vividly in a card. This Two of Swords is from the Tarot of the Divine, and it's just a really pretty card. I have not read the book that goes with it. It's supposed to represent Sita from the Ramayana, but I'm not sure what scene it depicts, or if it just depicts an emotion or a choice that she had to make in the story. But it's a really pretty card. This Two of Swords is from the Kawaii Tarot, and it just has an owl with his eyes closed holding 2 swords. It's just a really cute card. I really like that one. This Two of Swords is from the Modern Love Tarot. And I just like how the couple is facing away from each other. Like, I think we've all been there. You know, you're with someone and you're facing away, both looking at your own phones. I think it's something that we can all relate to. Got the Two of Swords from the Book of Shadows Tarot has an As Above and So Below deck, and this is the So Below deck. So she's just sort of meditating. She has her eyes closed and she's just thinking calmly about things, as opposed to the Two of Swords from the Lightseers, where it's not quite as calm. I mean, her thoughts are, I guess, tormenting her, and that's why she is blocking them out with a blindfold. And then the Robin Wood Tarot, Two of Swords, like really when I think of a lot of the cards in the tarot, I think of the Robin Wood, like just visually in my mind. If I think of the name of a card, I'll picture the Robin Wood. So, I mean, this is like for me, the epitome of what the Two of Swords looks like to me. So if I were to choose a favorite, it's really hard, actually. Wow. I mean, the main contenders, this is a really vivid card. This is really vivid, but it's not very calm, whereas sometimes, the figure on the Two of Swords seems like they're calm or in a meditative state. I don't know, that's really pretty though. But I honestly think that just because it's so relatable, I really like this Two of Swords the best. Here we have the Three of Swords. And a lot of times with the Three of Swords, people aren't very creative. There's literally just a heart with three swords in it. So it's actually harder to find good depictions of the Three of Swords than just sort of boring ones. Here we have from the Forest of Enchantment, the Three of Challenges. And it looks like Hansel and Gretel's father has left them in the woods and he's sad about that. And I guess he shouldn't have listened to his wife or whatever. But he's feeling some sort of way about that. So I really like this one because it does imply a story rather than just having, a heart with swords in it. This is the Three of Swords from the Shadowland Tarot. And the heart is like a pin cushion. There's pins sticking out of it and it's on someone's shirt. It's still a heart with a, being pierced, but this is another one, it's on a shirt. This is from the Bad Bitches Tarot. It's still better than just a heart with the swords. This is from the Book of Shadows, So Below. And the reason that I like it is because it has a whole story going on. So she's opened some sort of mail and she's upset about it. There's some sort of moving truck. So, she's going through some sort of hard time. Maybe she's, losing her house or whatever's happening. It has a whole story going on. So you can see that she has an emotion, but you can also see that there's a situation around it. The same thing with the Three of Blades from the Everyday Enchantment. It also has a pin cushion with some pins in it for the heart. But, you can see a picture in the background and she's crying in the foreground. And I mean, I feel like I can hear her voice when I see this one. It's so vivid with the body language, which is one of the main things that I look for in a card. This Three of Swords is from the Modern Love Tarot. The flowers are on the floor and broken picture. The thing is, it doesn't have people in it, but it still has enough. It doesn't have body language because there aren't people, but it still depicts enough of a scene that you definitely understand what's going on here. And this is another one where it's it's a shirt with a heart on it. This is the Three of Swords from the Tarot of the Sweet Twilight. And the thing I like about it is that she is stabbing herself with a sword. And I mean, I think sometimes, there's a thing that hurts us and then we hurt ourselves every time we think about it, right? So she's like just jabbing it in there, just reminding herself. Maybe sometimes like we like the, you know, we like to remind ourselves of how bad we felt or something. I don't know why. It's a weirdness, but I like that she's the one who is inflicting it. It's not maybe a current thing that hurt her, but a thing that she is like reminding herself of how much it hurt her. So that is also really vivid to me. So these were the most vivid and easy to read to me of the Three of Swords. I really think that of these, this is a strong contender and this is a strong contender, but I do think that I like this just because, you know, the woman's face, and just like I said, I feel like I can hear her voice when I look at it. Like, it's so vivid to me that it's very easy for me to read. So these are the Four of Swords. Now, a lot of times the Four of Swords can depict someone taking a break or reassessing, or, you know, in the Rider-Waite, it is someone who's like meditating in a coffin before a battle. So it's just taking some time to retreat and meditate. So these Four of Swords, this is from the White Newman, the Soul Cats, the Book of Shadows So Below, Modern Love, Tarot of the Old Path, Bad Bitches Tarot, and Everyday Witch Tarot. So with the White Newman, I just thought it was a really pretty card. Like, I'm not actually sure why the swords have those like little flares to show how pointy they are, and I'm not sure why she's pointing at her head with one, but I just thought it was a really beautiful card, and it's one of the reasons that I chose this one. The Soul Cat has, the kitty is retreated. He's just curled up in front of a fire, resting. So this is a really sweet deck. I like this one a lot. The So Below Tarot shows someone at work, and she's blowing bubbles. So she's just basically taking a break, and it looks like there's a lot of stuff on her desk, and she is probably overwhelmed and is just taking a little bit of a time out. So I really like this one a lot. Then in the Modern Love Tarot, I mean, she's really taking a break. She's just out in the swimming pool and just not thinking about anything. That's a really pretty card. In the Tarot of the Old Path, I like how she has built sort of a fortress around her and has her hands up defensively, sort of blocking negative energy. This probably is one of my favorite depictions in the traditional vein, like as opposed to a modern take on it. Like, this is more similar to what was probably originally intended with the illustration in the Rider-Waite, but with a modern, not a modern take, but a new take on it. The Four of Swords from the Bad Bitches Tarot, she's like meditating. They seem kind of calm. The Four of Swords from the Everyday Witch Tarot, I mean, she's got cobwebs. She must have been laying here for a long time, but she's got her hat and broom up for the night. She's got her kitty with her, and she's just taking a time out. So of the Four of Swords, I mean, some of them are really beautiful, like this one. This was, the Old Path was my first deck ever, so I probably am pulled to this one a lot because of that. I really like the Four of Swords from the Everyday Witch Tarot and the Soul Cats, but I really think that my favorite Four of Swords is from the So Below deck, because it just shows everything that she has to do all around her, and that she's taking a break from it right now, which I think is a really good depiction of this card. Okay, so I'm not sure anyone would say the Five of Swords is their favorite card. In fact, the key word on the Crowley Thoth Tarot is defeat. So I seem to have chosen several of this one. So I think it's probably just a card that can be depicted vividly more than it is a card that people might really like. At least you wouldn't like to see it in a reading, but these are good depictions of the card. So in the Bad Bitches, you can see this girl standing with her friends, and they are talking about someone. So you can see some gossip and probably some fight, but some people probably off scene, or at least one person that they're talking about. So there's a lot going on there, and probably a lot of action in the past and a lot of action just about to happen. We have the Five of Challenges from the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. And I really like this because, I mean, if this is a card about defeat, like when you see this guy, you know that you are not going to beat him. Like, for one thing, he has a tree in his hand and he's right up in front of you. So this is a really good depiction of an unbeatable foe.
I can take him.
Well, some people can, but some of us can't. Then in the Crowley Thoth Tarot, again, we have defeat. And a lot of times I don't like cards with pips, but in this deck, you really get a sense of what's being said, even though there aren't people and there aren't facial expressions to read. There's always something that depicts what the card means. So I really like this one. The Five of Swords in the Kawaii Tarot. So you have this cake has been cut and this little mouse took the whole slice and this mouse is running away crying. This mouse is running away. So basically it's like a winner takes all. And I just really like the little rainbow cake and the mouse, just greedy mouse taking the whole piece for herself.
Do you mind if I step in for a moment?
Hell no.
So that one mouse got one slice.
I know they could eat
the rest.
the rest.
Of us eat the rest of the cake.
No, not with her holding the sword like that. She wins the whole cake.
They had swords also. They don't have to drop their swords.
It's so cute.
Sorry, continue.
And then the Five of Swords from the Shadowland Tarot has crows. And this crow has taken all of the corn. And these crows get no corn. So I really like that one. And this crow didn't leave corn. So here, I mean, those mice could get some cake if she wasn't guarding it with her sword. But these crows get no corn because this one took it all. The Five of Swords from the Modern Love Tarot, I think, is probably the saddest Five of Swords ever. And I think we've all experienced, like, the adults are crying and we're, you know, just down here feeling this way. And, you know, maybe we've been the adults and someone else has been feeling this way. You know, it's just a sad Five of Swords all around. And it shows the kind of conflict where there aren't really any winners here, especially not the children. So this is a really, really good depiction of this card. The Five of Swords in the Everyday Witch Tarot. So it seems like they could not agree on how to do this spell. So this witch is doing the magic her way, and they're like, oh, that is not how we think we should be doing this. This is a disaster. So she's getting her way, and they are not getting their way. And a lot of times with this card, that's what you're going to see depicted. In several decks, you would see someone was getting their way, and then two people were not getting their way, and one of them is more upset than the other about it. And, you know, here in the Five of Swords from the So Below, you have someone who has won, but, you know, you have a second and third place and varying degrees of how upset they are. Like here, where we have someone covering their face, here we have someone who's really upset. And here where we have someone who's a little bit concerned, here we have someone who's, you know, a little bit sad that she's not the winner. So with the Five of Swords, see, this deck was my main reading deck for a long time, so I probably like it for that reason more than for the picture itself, really. I think this is a very good card. This is also a very good card, but I think my favorite Five of Swords is from the Modern Love, just because I think that we can all understand the feelings that are going on. Whether you identify with the parents or the children in the picture, we can all understand the situation and the fact that there are no winners in this battle. Okay, so the Six of Swords, a lot of times it will show someone escaping a situation by boat and going to a nicer place. This is the Robin Wood Six of Swords. And again, a lot of times with a Robin Wood, that is, when I picture a card, that's the card that I picture. So this is how I picture the Six of Swords a lot of times. This is the Six of Swords from the Shadowlands Tarot. And that's just really cute. I mean, the dragon is carrying them across the water. This is a really cute deck. It's really fun. This Six of Swords is from the Joie de Vivre Tarot by Paulina Cassidy. I have 2 of her decks. She has more. They're so, like, her artwork is so sweet and adorable. I really like this. And the Six of Swords from the Lightseers. There are a lot of blackbirds. I don't know if they're all crows, but there are a lot of birds in the Suit of Swords in the Lightseers. I'm not sure why the birds are pulling her across the water, but this is a suit that's associated with air, and that could be one of the reasons. But I just really like crows. This Six of Swords is from the Druidcraft, and it's comparable, I think, but we're just from a different viewpoint. So we're facing head on into the boat and seeing the people's faces, where usually you'll see them turned away in a traditional depiction of this card. But I just thought this was a really pretty Six of Swords. This is from the Next World Tarot, and rather than escaping by boat, she looks like she is waiting for a bus or hitchhiking or otherwise waiting for a ride. But I just like the way she has all of her stuff packed up. And you can tell that she's traveling, and it's just a different way of depicting the card. I mean, I think really I like this card, but this might be my favorite, just because I do like the face-on angle in the card. I think being able to see people's facial expressions is important to me when I read a card, so I like this one a lot, and it's very pretty. Okay, so the Seven of Swords. A lot of times the Seven of Swords depicts theft or someone sneaking away with something. This one is the Robin Wood. And again, since a lot of times I picture the Robin Wood when I'm thinking of a card, this is just, to me, a traditional depiction. So you've got this guy sneaking away from a camp, and he's stealing some swords. In the Shadowlands, this is just really cute. I mean, you have like voodoo dolls, and this one is stealing the pins. There's one in the back, and he has a couple of pins stuck in him. This is just really cute. I like this. And it's just a fun deck. The Force of Enchantment, you have the Seven of Challenges. Now, a lot of times there will be like a fox in a Seven of Swords card, but usually the fox isn't the one stealing things. So I thought this was something interesting, where the fox himself is, or there are 3 foxes stealing things, but they're making away from this vehicle where someone has set up camp for the night, and they are stealing things. So I like that. This Seven of Swords is from the Darkwood Tarot. I don't know if that's a fox or a wolf, but it's probably a wolf. There's probably a little Red Riding Hood up here. There she has stolen some swords, and she is hiding, getting away with the swords.
Stole grandma's swords.
I don't know whose swords. She needs to put some shoes on, though.
I think I know why grandma got eaten by the wolf.
Well, the Seven of Swords from the So Below Tarot shows someone rifling through some papers, and this was my main reading deck for a while, and I've actually had this come up, in readings that had to do with people having their accounts hacked. So it's a different kind of theft, so that's something different, someone looking through someone else's papers. The Seven of Swords from the Lightseers. I just really like the crows on these cards, but here we've got this guy stealing a sword. It looks like he's got some feathers actually in his backpack, but I think I just really like crows, and that's why I chose this one. The Seven of Swords from the Modern Love. So she's sneaking out the window. looks like she was probably stealing like someone else's man, you know. So she's sneaking out at night, or maybe she's sneaking out of her house to go see someone, you know. But again, I like when there's vivid depictions of body language. So I find this to be a really good card. And then the Seven of Swords in the Next World Tarot is a little bit of a different depiction, but the keyword on it says escape. And if you think of it that way, so, you know, it looks like someone who's finally found their place in the world and their own self-expression, and they're no longer having to hide who they are or whatever, and they've turned their back to whatever was holding them down or whatever. So, you know, it's not the usual depiction in that they're not stealing something that might be someone else's, but it is a very vivid depiction of someone like finally escaping and having the freedom to be themselves. So I really liked this one.
She's gonna step on a sword. Not her.
Oh yeah, she's gonna step on a sword.
She's gonna get out the window and step on a sword.
She's gonna cut her foot.
She's not going to escape.
That's terrible. I mean, I honestly think that my favorite Seven of Swords is the Modern Love. And I think it really is because I read body language a lot in cards, and because it's just such a vivid card. It might not even be the prettiest of the cards, but it's the most vivid of the cards to me. So I really like this one. Okay, so the Eight of Swords. This is the Robin Wood. And I mean, to me, this is just the ultimate depiction of this card. And the first time I ever saw it, the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer used to be on. And it reminded me of like Dawn. Like she's gotten herself kidnapped and needs to be rescued. So I really like this one. I think personally I was like offended when I read like 78 Degrees of Wisdom about how she can just walk away. Like someone has tied her up and blindfolded her and there's swords all around. Like seriously, she's in a situation here. So in the Eight of Blades from the Everyday Enchantment, I mean, you can see how trapped she's feeling. Like you can almost hear this card too. You've got the baby crying. You've got the dog howling. She's stuck inside. She's still wearing her bathrobe. She probably hasn't even had a shower today. And she's just looking out the whole world out there, but she's stuck in here, which I think, you know, I can at least relate to. I don't know about other people, but I definitely feel what's being depicted and the feeling of being stuck or trapped that's in this card. Which again, like, you know, she hasn't been kidnapped or tied up, but she can't just walk away. Like she can't just leave. Like there is some reason in the Eight of Swords why the person doesn't just leave. It's not just a matter, like, I always hate when people are like, well, that you could just walk away. You know, I hate that reading of the card because, I mean, obviously there are reasons that you can't. So, I mean, this actually shows that the person has responsibilities and they can't just walk away. So I really like this one. The Eight of Swords in the So Below deck. It looks like she has been struggling to find an answer. She's been looking in every grimoire and magical book she can find. She's been drawing up charts and graphs, and now she's just exhausted. Swords, you know, are air and they're associated with thought, and she has just been thinking too much about the same problem, and now she just can't even think about it anymore. So she's just surrounded by all of the ideas that aren't going to work, and she doesn't have any new ideas yet that are going to work. The Eight of Swords in the Modern Love Tarot. You know, there's like a lock on the outside and she's looking through the swords. She does have the key. But I thought it was really vivid because it has such a clear facial expression. The Eight of Swords from the Lightseer's Tarot. I like how she's looking in a mirror, but the mirror is like her thoughts all just wrapping her up, like she's being tied up with strings from the crows, which again, there are a lot of crows on this suit in this deck. but this is the mirror image and it's not what's actually happening. So it's like her thoughts are, again, tying herself up in knots. And then the Eight of Swords in the Everyday Witch Tarot is a more traditional Eight of Swords, where she is blindfolded and bound and there's swords all around her. She's got a kitty and a bird. I mean, it's a pretty card. It's a very traditional interpretation. I think my favorite, I do like the Robin Wood one a lot. But I really think the Eight of Blades from the Everyday Enchantment is one that, you know, when you lay it down, you can instantly recognize what's being depicted. And for me, that's a big thing, is if I can clearly read what was meant by a card when I lay it down. So I think that this one is my favorite. Okay, so the Nine of Swords. Usually I call this the Up All Night Worrying card. The Aleister Crowley keyword says cruelty, and in the Next World Tarot, the keyword says despair. So this is not a happy card. This is, you know, I think in Waite's Pictorial Key to the Tarot, he says that it's like disaster, that it could even signify like miscarriage or something. Like, this is not anyone's fun card. But here we have, in the So Below, you have someone who's in bed and there are bats and I don't know what those are, flies, a vulture on the bed, a spider. And then the good fairies who would be helping are sort of locked outside. So she's in here with all of these like nightmarish scenarios in her head. And, you know, the good help that would be comforting to her is on the outside. In the Shadowlands Tarot, I mean, this is like adorable. Like, I mean, it's terrible. Like, you don't want to be laying in bed and there's a giant spider with its baby spiders dangling over you. That's horrible. But it's a really cute, fun card. And it definitely depicts a nightmarish, you know, laying awake. Like, you know, obviously you'd be sleeping with your eyes open if you had spiders, or I don't know. I don't think I'd be sleeping in the bedroom at all if there were spiders.
That guy's not sleeping.
he's got that one eye real big on those. The Robin Wood Tarot, you know, she's got her head in her hands and there's astrological symbols on the blanket. It's a very traditional Rider-Waite inspired card, but I think it's a very pretty one at the same time. And again, like when I first had this deck, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was on, and it sort of looked like Buffy. You know, it was like if the Eight of Swords looked like Dawn, the Nine of Swords looked like Buffy. Like, oh no, not again. You know. In the Crowley Thoth, like again, it's pips, but you know, they're dripping blood, so they're very easy to read, and the keyword says cruelty. So as far as pips go, this is very easy to interpret. So I like this one. This is the Pagan Tarot, Nine of Swords, and this is someone just sitting up on the side of the bed and their faces in their hands and their swords on the wall above them. And you can see the sunlight starting to come in, so they've been up all night. So there's just basic up all night worrying kind of card. The Nine of Blades in the Everyday Enchantment, it also has a very similar, like this blanket here with the astrological symbols. You can see the blanket there. I just pushed and took some pills. I don't know what's going on with them. Their fingernails actually have swords on the fingernails, but they have their head in their hands. I thought this was a very vivid depiction, and it's face on. So it changes usually you see like a side profile, but it's a face-on depiction. And then the Nine of Swords in the Next World Tarot, the swords are actually cigarettes that this person has smoked. So the keyword says despair, and this is someone who's just alone outside. It's interesting that they're not in bed all night worrying, but they are just smoking one cigarette after another, which is something someone does when they're worried. So I liked this one. I liked it because it's different. And it's also, it's also still telling a story here because they've smoked all these cigarettes. So they're probably just staying in one spot being stressed out about something.
So like this one here.
Mm-hmm. Pagan Tarot.
That one's also telling a story. If you look on the other side of the bed, no one slept on that side of the bed.
Yeah,
like
I didn't even think of that.
Isn't even in the room.
That's true.
And of course, they put swords right above where you're sleeping, so that's always smart.
It's bad feng shui. I'm not sure that's a good place for the swords, but yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, there isn't someone on the other side of the bed, and that could be why she's feeling this way. So that's a good point there. So I think on this one, though, my favorite really is the Robin Wood Tarot. I mean, for me, this card is the Nine of Swords, but this is a really strong contender here. But I do think that Robin Wood is my favorite Nine of Swords. Okay, so the Ten of Swords. So usually in the Rider Waite, you've got someone laying down with 10 swords in their back. It's probably one of the worst cards in the deck.
It's the acupuncture card.
It's sometimes they look like they're getting acupuncture. Sometimes it looks like they're just at a spa. It's like that in the White Newman deck. She looks like she's in a spa. So the Ten of Swords in the Soul Cat's Tarot. Thankfully, there's no swords in a kitty in this deck. But you can see that the kitty is at a grave and is very sad. I like the kitty tarot. I like soul cats. The cards are surprisingly, they show a lot with the body language, even though it's cats instead of people. I really like the Ten of Swords in the Everyday Witch because she's got the swords in her back, but she is reaching for her broom. So, she's not just laying down and dying just because she got stabbed in the back by everyone she knows, but she is picking up her broom and she is going to do something about it. So I like that it's very proactive. The Ten of Swords in the Shadowlands is a voodoo doll that's got all the pins stuck in him. So it's a very cute deck. The Ten of Swords in the Next World has just a very intense facial expression. And actually, one of my sons said, "Oh, this is me," which is kind of like, what? Why? It says ruin, but it also says Sun in Gemini, and he is a Gemini. I'd like to think that's what he's referring to, but actually he's kind of a drama queen sometimes, so that might be what he's referring to.
We don't have drama queens in our family.
Oh, we do. The Ten of Swords from The Modern Love. There's, this divorce has just been finalized and this guy is out the door. So as far as a card depicting finality, this is it, it's over. So I like this because you can clearly understand. And the Modern Love Tarot is meant to be read for relationships. So in this one, you can clearly understand that this relationship is over. When you see this card, you know that it's over. The Ten of Swords in the So Below, she's got a bowl with fire. She's got a phoenix. So rather than showing someone at the moment of, being defeated or something, it's showing someone rising from the ashes and creating something new. So I like it. And it's just a really pretty card, actually. As far as Ten of Swords cards go, it's actually really pretty. The Ten of Swords from the Modern Witch Tarot. She's looking at her phone. She's got all the swords stuck in her, and she's just looking at her phone. So this is a cute one.
This is fine swords.
Yeah, there's an extra card in the deck that's this exact picture, but it says everything is fine because she's just looking at her phone, even though she's pierced with all those swords. I think that I really like this. It's a strong contender for being my favorite because the meaning is so clear. I like this one, but it almost looks like it could be a Five of Cups or something. just because it's depicting grief in that way. So I think my favorite is the Ten of Swords from the Everyday Witch because of the way she's reaching for her broom and because she's not going to just take this lying down. She is getting back up and doing something about it. So I do think that this is my favorite Ten of Swords. All right, so for the Suit of Swords, out of all of my decks, these are my favorite depictions of the Suit of Swords. So you have the Ace of Swords from the Modern Love, the Two of Swords from the Modern Love, Three of Blades from Everyday Enchantment, Four of Swords from So Below, Five of Swords from Modern Love, Six of Swords from Druidcraft, Seven of Swords from Modern Love, Eight of Blades from Everyday Enchantment, Nine of Swords from Robin Wood, and the Ten of Swords from the Everyday Witch. So this has been my favorite of all of my decks, my favorite depictions of the Suit of Swords. So next time I will be doing wands. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time when we do the Suit of Wands.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell for notifications. I post new videos every Wednesday.